Welcome to Good Game, your no BS insights for crypto founders.
People in crypto are trading based on a single narrative or a couple of narratives. Yep. We had to jump on inscriptions. Otherwise, we might have faced disruption by some other startup who jumped on it quicker than us.
I think basically in crypto, more so than in Web 2, you can never rest on your laurels. You really need to
So how
always
paranoid
be,
are you guys?
Like more paranoid than I would like to be. Yeah. It's easier to say what I don't lose sleep over at this point.
But your girlfriend like that?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, it's a real problem, right? It's like you're trying to go on a date or something where you're trying to look at the girl, but you think NFT is like market share. It's a problem, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we do live in a 24/7 market.
24/7.
24/7. I wake up crypto, I sleep crypto. Looking for your next startup idea in crypto? Check out our request for startups list and get inspired at alliance.xyz/ideas. All right, welcome to Good Game. Today is Valentine's Day. I feel like we're spending some quality time together here.
Very cozy over here.
It's very cozy, especially you guys over there.
Not a couch just for this.
But today's a special episode because we have both the Tensor team and Meow from Jupiter. They came to speak to our founders within the Alliance cohort. We're running our program here in New York. And we figured, why not run a quick podcast session, talk about what's happening on Solana. There's I would say many narratives are running place, but I'd love to kind of touch on one, which is points. It seems like people are starting to dislike points, or they're just getting overwhelmed with points. You know, you start to see startups that don't even have product market fit run points, thinking that they can get their next 10,000 users. But obviously that's not the case, having that you've both ran points programs. So I guess, you know, what are your thoughts on the points meta now? Are you bullish, bearish? Where do you see it going?
I think points, like everything in life, has its place. And yes, I know that's very deep.
Very deep.
Okay, but in all seriousness, I think if you're pre-product market fit, and the way you find that out is that you don't have even a small number of users that show up to your product daily and repeatedly. That's really important. I think if you're before product market fit, you shouldn't be thinking about rewards at all, whether that's points or something else. Once you hit product market fit, rewards is just a way for you to take your product from like a tiny minority of users that discovered it by themselves to a larger kind of subset of users that are almost like incentivized to try it. But there better be a good product underneath for them to stick around, because if there's no product, then they're just going to come and go. And so I think like the point of the points is to not think about the points too much. It's about building the product and then using rewards to drive users to it.
Another like practical consideration of points is that there's a lot of flexibility in what you can do with them. As in, like, once you, let's say, give someone points, you at least have some like way to modify it as you sort of experiment with your rewards program. You know, maybe you notice that a lot of people are doing the wrong things or doing unintended things that you didn't want to induce on your product, right? And it gives you the flexibility to change it as you go. At least for us, right? Like, we had multiple seasons, and we basically had to revamp the entire point system every single season, just because we saw some of like the negative externalities of the way that we formulated the initial points formula that we learned from and adapted in subsequent seasons. And that's like a very powerful optionality you get as a founder for using points.
As opposed to tokens, right? Because tokens are much harder to change in terms of token economics.
It's almost like a benefit that they're non-transferable, right?
Yeah.
And you can't get rugged.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like points are interesting, right? Because tokens are, in some sense, very definitive, right? It's like once the token's out there, it's out there, right? You know? Whereas for points, as I mentioned earlier, there are many ways you can actually change it and adapt it.
Yeah.
I guess from a user point of view, the frustration becomes like, okay, I do all these things, but I don't know how much I'm getting, right? And actually, I mean, there are many to go about it, right? It's like you can have a point system, or you can have a point system that denotes a certain percentage in the protocol, right? You know, or a certain point system with a certain end time, right? So I feel like a big part of it is like, how do you manage attention, right? Because if you don't promise anything, right? Think of two extremes, right? One extreme is that, okay, you don't know how much you're getting, you don't know what's ending, you don't know what's a cap, right? The other version is, okay, you know exactly how much you're getting, right?
Yep.
So one point goes to one token, almost, right? So you know exactly. So I feel like there's no good answer here, but I think communication. Yeah, I feel like the main thing is that combining to what he was saying, right? Ilja was saying, is that I think, can you communicate early on and set expectations, right? And slowly converge into a more concrete thing, right? So I feel like that expectation and that convergence is very important, if you ask me, right? Yeah.
I think what's driving, obviously, the points meta is the regulatory arbitrage, right? Which is, at least in the US and certain parts of the world, you can't just airdrop tokens to their users. So this is a way to at least save some time so that products, startups can kind of think about what their regulatory strategy is when they're airdropping tokens. And I think that's kind of the fundamental like narrative for founders. But I also think it's a great way to gamify your experience and attract new users. So I do think there's an opportunity to like gamify, keep people engaged and things like that.
So do you guys feel the points meta is here to stay, let's say, 6 to 12 months from now? Or is it being played out?
I think 6 to 12 months, maybe. I do think that 2 years from now, probably not. Because there's like levels of tiredness. And I think we're kind of itching into the last quartile of tiredness, where it's like, okay, like it's getting a little tiresome. And honestly, if I was starting a new product right now, I wouldn't do points. I would do something else. Just find a creative
What would
thing.
you do?
I don't know, leaderboards, badges, NFTs, like NFTs that morph, NFTs that change. I think NFTs is this form factor that is infinitely flexible.
Like a dynamic NFT.
Yeah, like dynamic stuff, right? Just find interesting things, NFTs that level themselves up. I don't know, like do something different. Do something that people are going to talk about on CT. I think that's how you win.
Tushar from Multicoin, I think he tweeted about this. He wrote an article about this, which is back in our day, you could mine Bitcoin to get Bitcoin, right? And then that was like the fundraising landscape. Then the second phase was ICOs, right? And that speculative mania. Then the next phase was NFTs, like buying NFTs early. Now he says it's points. So it could very well be that the meta that you mentioned could change into something more gamified. We just don't know what that is exactly. But I'm sure there's someone that's going to be that could crack that.
I'm going to take the other side.
Okay.
I think if you have a good product and you just want some reward structure to like maximize growth or like to increase the rate of growth, I think points are perfectly fine. Because if people are using your product because there's product market fit and it's intrinsically useful, doesn't matter what kind of like weird gamification, convoluted setup that you can give them, points are, I think, fine. However, if you're a new startup that hasn't really reached product market fit, and you just want to make a big splash with something like novel, something unique, and you want to like also like, drive a bunch of like distribution that you don't already have, then yes, you'll have to think of something else besides points.
I think it's all gonna be there. I think if you look at incentives in crypto, it never goes away, right? Every single incentive that happened in the past, still in the future.
Yeah,
right? It just becomes more interesting and more fancy and more diversified, right? And that's great, I think, right? Yeah.
So we'll see everything. Yeah, I mean, we're
We'll see
still seeing
everything,
ICOs,
we'll see
people are
everything,
still
right?
mining.
It's like, and even the product market fit thing, right? Sometimes you don't even need product market fit, right? We all know projects that just launch or even a replica of a different project, right? And then just, hey, we have points or we have tokens or something, right? We see that all the time, right? A new L2, a new NFT marketplace, right?
I feel that never goes well. I feel that never goes well though. Like if somebody launches a pure replica with a token versus something that doesn't have a token, like to me a great example is LooksRare. Copy paste OpenSea, slap on a token, went to zero because it didn't try to do anything new. Versus Blur and us that actually tried like a different form factor.
So yeah, Sushi Shop did it pretty well. I feel like.
Where's Sushi now though?
Huh?
Where's Sushi now?
Yeah,
though?
I mean they have like maybe 10% market share.
But I look at the history of all copy pasta in the history of crypto. Only one worked, and that was Monero. So Monero is actually not the original. There was Monero is actually a fork of another project that, and this was like back in 2013 or something. Monero is the only copy pasta, the only fork that turns out to be the winner. Everything else that forked a previous project has failed.
I think if you copy pasta and then you just iterate on new things really quickly, that could also turn out to be a good outcome. But I think like maybe the Sushi Swap example is bad because I feel like execution was also not as great as Uniswap.
Yeah, Sushi.
Yeah, and so they didn't like take advantage of all the momentum they got initially. They just kind of like, oh, cool, now we're like 50% market share, and they just sat on their hands.
They got too decentralized.
Too many products.
Too many products.
Like
Miso
their front
was
end
what-
had like 10 different products you can choose, whereas Uniswap is super clean.
they kept it the
just
same.
swap,
They
yeah.
never really changed it.
Yeah.
So
That actually goes to something that I feel you start to understand the more time you spend in crypto, and that is the importance of narratives and the importance of keeping them very clean and simple. As a founder, you basically want your product and your company to have one narrative and one
True.
narrative only.
Yeah.
It's also the hardest thing to do because you can only pick one. You can't do 7 narratives, but the founders that do that, I think, do really well.
Wouldn't Meow take the other side of this? Because you're launching many products.
The best on-chain exchange.
The
We are
narrative is
we are
simple.
the best on-chain exchange. That's it.
But for spot and derivatives and launchpad,
Yeah, all same
It's
thing.
on-chain
It's
Binance.
It's on-chain, on-chain exchange. Yeah,
Okay.
we call
So
ourselves
to be
the
clear,
best
this is not
on-chain
products.
exchange.
This is
Yeah.
narratives, right? So
Narratives,
you want
yeah,
one
it's
narrative. Like for
narratives, yeah.
Tensor, it's like the liquidity layer for NFTs. That's all we're doing. That's the only thing we're doing.
you know, I realized with SushiSwap, the reason why I think they failed was the fact that they didn't think from first principles. Right? They copied someone else's vision, and then they kind of put in their own like way that they thought that the product should go, and it obviously fell flat. So copying another product, fine, but really you got to find the inspiration of understanding what your users want, and you could only do that by building the actual product first.
Yeah.
For the
So,
most part.
Actually, just let me share something here real quick, right? It's the idea of synergy, right? Is that for us anyway, right? I think the reason why I think we did well is that it's too early to tell. You know? But so far it's not too bad,
Still
right?
being
It's like,
humble.
no. So far it's not too bad. I think the key idea here, right, is that synergy, right? It's like for example, if you went off to do something like completely different, right? I can't tell you what, right? But when the user comes to Jupiter, right? You know what else is he gonna do, right? What else is he gonna be interested in, right? Is he gonna be interested in sport, in DCA, right? Is he gonna be in perps, right? Is he gonna be interested in new projects that are forming, right? I think yes, right? So there's actually a very I think few things, right? First of all, it's narrative, right? I think it's really, really important to have one narrative, right? And for us, it's like, okay, can we build the best on-chain exchange possible?
Yeah.
Right? Simple, sharp, to the point, right? And the second thing that we really care about is synergy, right? Okay, hey, when a user comes in, right, would they find everything interesting, right? You know, anything that we don't think user find interesting is no go for us, right? And thirdly, it's also team strength, right? You know, like, because again, I'm telling you guys, like, building is easy. I'm telling you, right? Like just building new stuff is easy, right? Coding is very easy, right? But building like real competency is very hard, right? Like every single product we build and stuff, oh my God, I'm telling you, like to get there was really tough, right? So I think a big part is, okay, if we do this thing, does it leverage on the competencies that we have, right? And secondly, is okay, well, is this competency important to us in the future, right? And it can be very trivial things like Cloudflare, you know, or like RPCs. How do you handle many RPCs and stuff, right? So I think like for example, we did Launchpad, right? Man, telling you, that was a big decision, right? Instead of launching Jupe, we had to build Launchpad. Right?
Yeah.
But I think part of at least a big part of like what drives the decision was, okay, are the lessons that we learned from doing it is going to be good for us or not, right? You know, we're going to have to massively scale RPCs.
It's like a rocket launch, right?
Yeah, precisely, right? It's like how and is it gonna kind of add an interesting dynamic to our community, right? You know, so I feel like so that's how I think about it, right? It's like it's in terms of like very like synergistic narrative, synergistic to users, and synergistic to kind of like the team competence. Yeah.
Add on to that, the way I think about it is, I think like startups and like working on products is a market in itself.
Yeah.
And if you believe in the efficient market hypothesis, there's probably a better team out there who can do something better, like some other like unrelated product, orthogonal product to your product, if there's no synergy, right?
Yeah,
So for us, like hypothetically, let's say we decided to build some sort of token experience, right? Go head on with Meow and Jupiter.
No.
Stop leaking the plans.
Yeah. Like, yes, we could maybe capture this massive market, which is fungible tokens on Solana. But now we're going up against Meow and his competent team, who has been thinking about this market, thinking about the products around it for more time than we've, spent working on Tensor.
Sorry, think about SPL 22s.
Oh, that's interesting.
Actually, to add on to that point, right? It's like I think I think anyone that who is new to crypto, right? They would think of product as like code and UX or maybe markets, right? But the truth is that there's a huge component around like ecosystem and community, right? It might surprise you, but like the DeFi community and the NFT community are very different. They are in the same ecosystem. They kind of sort of talk in CT at the same time, but they're very, very different, right? So it's like even if you really kind of understand like DeFi, you don't understand NFTs and vice versa, right? You know, it's actually really interesting. Speculative.
By the way, that point, like about communities, we had this conversation maybe 2 years ago, 1 or 2 years ago, about NFT options or NFT perps. And the argument we had was, if you draw the diagram of DeFi and NFT people, the intersection is probably too small for a product like this to thrive. But now things might have changed a little bit. Maybe there's greater intersection. You guys launched
basically it's different now. So we launched a different type of product on top of NFTs, and that's price lock.
Okay.
Long story short is you can long and short NFTs given a certain period of time, right? Within a certain period of time. What's interesting is that we're not trying to appeal to the DeFi folks who are used to this concept of like longing and shorting like a token or something. We're actually trying to appeal to the NFT crowd who basically have voiced, in user feedback sessions that they just want to like be able to ape into Mad Lads or Tensorians with just like 2 SOL, 3 SOL, basically a fraction of what Mad Lads and Tensorians cost. Or they might want to like hedge out their portfolio where they have like 100 Mad Lads and they know that perhaps there's an announcement coming up and they want to hedge their downside exposure, right? So we're still appealing to the NFT crowd. It's not really the DeFi crowd at all.
So you're building tool sets for NFT traders, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think your point about competencies is spot on. It's very easy to look at a wallet or to look at a perp exchange or to look at an NFT marketplace and to say, hey, how hard is that to build? It's like, it's like 2 days of work. And then what you discover is that, it's 2 days of work to ship the basic most version of that. But then there's a long tail of shit that you have to deal with of like all kinds of issues that you could not have thought about. And the teams like Jupiter, teams like ours, like Backpack that are building the wallet, they've gone through that. They've built all of that. And that is like super valuable.
It's like the number of things that can go wrong. Insane. And one thing that we really care about is customer service, right? Because
it's all about customers. Yeah.
All about customer service. It's funny, right? Because like what you read and what you can think of is the top end of the tail, right? The fat tail, right? Right? But the endless number of things that your users deal with, right, is the long tail, right? And it's like, and you really need to tackle a big part of the tail, right? You can't just leave them alone, right? So I feel like I actually feel like great teams, including like Tensor and also Backpack and also like pretty much all the OG teams, like Camino, everyone, right? Margin, everyone. It's like these are all teams that has spent the last 2 years,
bear market,
last 2 years, right? Really dealing with their long tail shit, right? Even when it wasn't quote unquote economically wise, right? And I love that. Guys, isn't it great? Isn't it great that like, obviously we have a lot of competition and everything, right? But we are as a community, right? It's like we dealt with it, right? In the last 2 years when everyone was like, hey, get off Solana, fuck this shit, No, seriously, and Qiao is great, right? I can talk about that, I'm saying. But I think, but we just like, work through all the issues, right? Even when it was like the long tail issues, right? Even when it was like economically unfeasible.
Yeah,
right?
sometimes you're solving issues for like 3 users.
Precisely.
But you still
people
do
don't know that. It's so important.
People don't know that. Yeah, it kind of sucks, but you do it. Like the number of times we had to fix something for like one guy in Discord.
God, so often.
It's like the devil in the details, where the analogy is you can either use an Apple product or you can use like a knockoff copycat Apple product from like China, right? Yes, they're practically speaking almost the same products, but you're not going to get Apple Care. You're not going to be able to walk into a store and get your knockoff fixed. You're not going to be able to connect it seamlessly with your iPhone. And like, yes, you get 90% of the experience, but it's really that 10% that people are paying a premium for.
And when you scroll, there's something that twitches.
Yeah.
Similar things
like
that,
glitch
right?
once a day.
It's a big deal. Because
things.
when you scroll like 90% of the time, right? And it just like tiny twitch things gets to you.
But if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't have a product that's like pristine now at this point, right? It's like the early days, the feedback that helps you guys to where you are today.
I can't emphasize this more, man. I feel like I really feel you, man. It's like that, like it's like that that one user, and not just that, guys. I think one
It's
thing
like that one anal user.
no, it's actually really important. Let me share something here, right? It's like to all the builders here, right? Anyone, right? It's like all the users as well, right? It's like the things that sometimes when you cater to that one user, right, you learn something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, oh wow, I didn't know that shit broke this way.
Yeah.
Right? And it really helps you later, right? You know? Right? So I think one thing that we do a lot of is that we just really care about that fucking one user.
Yeah.
You know, right? Just really care about that stuff, you know? Yeah. And it helps.
Much better to have 100 users that love you than 10,000 users that kind of like you.
Yeah, you know, and I feel like the way you get to, and remember, like for the last 2 years, Solana didn't have many users. You know, right? So we had no choice but to get 100.
Yeah. All the 100 are in front of you.
There was no 1,000, just 100.
Yeah, there's 100 users.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. It's funny.
So we talked about how, at least before, DeFi and NFT communities were separate, right? And then you're building tool sets that enable NFT traders to make, better decisions. What do you guys think about these two new standards that just came about? One is in the Ethereum world or the EVM world, it's the ERC 404 or 404, DN 404. On the Solana side, you have SPL 22, right, with Ghost and a couple other launches. So to me, it seems like they're kind of being blended, right? And so some of the startups like Wasabi on Ethereum, they're building more DeFi-like products on top of the fractional token model for these NFT communities. So do you feel like these new standards are novel? Are they here to stay? And what types of products do you see being built because of that?
So I kind of speak from basically the mind maze or idea maze that we went through when thinking about like, how do we make trading NFTs more efficient? And I'll give you a very concrete example. We wanted initially to build an order book for NFTs on Solana. TLDR is we looked at Phoenix, we looked at Serum, and we basically you could do it in a way, right, that is somewhat user-friendly, but not fully user-friendly. But there's a lot of trade-offs in that, like, if people start spamming your order book with just like a bunch of NFT orders, eventually you'll get filled out and you'll run into a lot of issues. At least in my mind, the only way to solve it was to basically fractionalize NFTs. But there are a lot of downsides of fractionalizing NFTs if they're not natively, in this ERC 404 or SPL 22 on Solana. The downside is there's this like decoupling between the NFT and the tokens.
Yeah.
And it's entirely managed by, let's say, a different protocol. So it's not even like the collection never decided to opt into it. It's being fractionalized by some other protocol that built fractionalization. But the benefit of these new standards is someone can opt in and decide on day one that we want this collection to trade as both fungible tokens and NFTs. And what's interesting, at least for us, is maybe we can start to build an order book for NFTs. And what's interesting about an order book for NFTs is you don't get this terrible UX where if you're trying to like sweep a bunch of NFTs at the floor, you just get a bunch of failures because there's no on-chain matching engine. That's still an issue we're struggling with. So potentially this could be an interesting way around that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting new form factor. The one thing I will say is I tend to believe in simplicity, and I think the markets that end up being the largest in the world are the simplest markets. So to me, that is still the two extremes of it's non-fungible or it's fungible. I think those two markets are going to be by far the largest. Now, is there a really interesting market in the middle that is starting to form? And are there going to be really interesting new use cases that we discovered this year? Yeah, like absolutely. And I think Tensor's there to, experiment and try and discover them. But I think like 10 years from now, I still think the barbell of like fungible, non-fungible is going to be the largest markets.
Sometimes the middle can be really big, right? Like U tokens, right? It's like Panda, right?
Yeah.
That Panda is Panda is interesting because they take a token and they take staking and they say, okay, can we take the U out of it? Yeah. Can we tokenize the U of that, right? So
a Pendle token, right? On
the Panda,
or
everything, right? So it's like, and can you create AMMs or markers of this U, right? So I feel like sometimes I agree with you, by the way. I think the biggest one are still going to be fungible and non-fungible, right? But I think if those two become big enough, right, then in the middle, then interesting things happen, Yeah.
There is a meta point about this, which is I know a lot of some of the best founders that we work with see 404 as an opportunity to take advantage of and possibly dethrone the bigger players. So and in crypto, there's or in just maybe in tech in general, there's constantly these new things that just pop up out of nowhere that create opportunities for founders to take advantage of, right? In your experience, just building the last 3 years, have you observed such new things that come out of nowhere that people have to take advantage of, or you personally have taken advantage of?
Yeah, this is so we talked about this during the talk, right? Finding your wedge. As a startup who doesn't already have overwhelming market share in your category, you have to find something that is differentiated, that is so different that the incumbents are not doing. For us, we've actually encountered this a couple of times on Solana, just with NFTs themselves, and those are like new standards, or even like inscriptions on Solana. So, taking a step back, there was basically a whole movement of taking the idea of inscriptions and ordinals from Bitcoin and copy pasting it to every other chain. It makes no sense intuitively, like why someone would do inscriptions on Solana, because it's not like on Bitcoin, it's the only way to do NFTs. On Solana, it's not the only way to do NFTs. You can do it much more efficiently. That being said, people latch onto that narrative. So going back to the idea that people in crypto are trading based on a single narrative or a couple of narratives, we had to jump on inscriptions. Otherwise, we might have faced disruption by some other startup who jumped on it quicker than us.
I think basically in crypto, more so than in Web2, you can never rest on your laurels. You really need to
How
always
paranoid
be
are you guys?
like more paranoid than I would like to be. Yeah. It's easier to say what I don't lose sleep over at this point.
But your girlfriend like that?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, it's a real problem, right? It's like you're trying to go on a date or something where you're trying to look at the girl, but you think NFT is like market share. Everything. So I don't think it's a problem, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we do live in a 24/7 market.
24/7.
24/7. I wake up crypto, I sleep crypto.
My biggest moment for me when I realized that crypto doesn't sleep was the 1-inch I dropped and stuff, like in Christmas, like 2 years back.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that was like funny. I was like, oh, the Christmas, yay, break. What the fuck?
Or the D-Gods last Christmas, right? Do you remember that? The D-Gods transitioned to a different chain that took over CT
Oh,
for the
yeah.
entire
That was the bottom.
That was the bottom.
Yeah,
That was the Solana bottom. Oh my god.
Such a great bottom though.
Yeah.
That's had so much
Well,
fun.
I mean, he's permanently D-Gods Frank is permanently like it's really hard for him to come back to Solana. It seems. I heard he's trying to come back.
Thanks for listening to Good Game. We wanted to take a quick moment for a short news segment, Crypto Startup Stories, where we spotlight founders who went through the Alliance Accelerator. Today, we're focusing on the startups shaping the Solana ecosystem, like Jupiter and Tensor. So without further ado, let's hear from Daniel Garay, the founder of Flexland. Daniel, what are you building?
We're building Flexland. It's a tool to make DeFi much easier and less time consuming for people. Essentially, we've aggregated all the lending apps on Solana and allow you to lend from one place. We're going to move your funds around so that you're always earning as much as you can.
Great. How did you come up with the idea?
User feedback. So we had originally started building a different product called Lulo. That one didn't go as great as we wanted, but it did generate a lot of feedback and a lot of touch points with people. And slowly, we collected a lot of feedback. We saw a lot of patterns, and that's how Flexland was born. It's essentially a product built 100% based off user feedback.
Did you reach out to the customers to get feedback? What was the process like?
So early on, we used the communities my co-founder and I were part of. So, I would reach out to every community I was part of, an NFT group, a trading group, a DeFi group, and try to get 2 or 3 people from each group to try out the product and become early users. And that's kind of how we got our first 50 people to try it out. And from there, you kind of see what groups they're part of and trying to go deeper into those groups. And that's kind of how we did it, spiderweb style.
What's one piece of advice that you give to founders that are building the space?
Yeah, I'd say don't forget to live. It sounds a little cliche, but I think I see personally as a founder, a lot of hustle content that's maybe targeted to me. And I don't really agree with it. I think it's important to take care of your body. It's important to take care of your mind. It's important to have hobbies. It's important to develop yourself as a person because, you're going to be working on this for 5 years or more. So regardless if it succeeds or if it fails, if you're not enjoying the time, if you don't come out of it as a better person holistically, then I think it's a losing proposition. So I don't really think sitting at the computer 16 hours a day is the way to go about it. I think you need to carve out time for other activities and other things and to take care of yourself.
In terms of Flexland, how's the momentum going? You got the feedback with Lulo, and then you built an aggregator. You talked to customers. You did the spiderweb effect of getting users to give you feedback. You use that feedback as a way to enhance your product, which is Flexland. Now you're an aggregator, and you're aggregating lending across all of Solana DeFi. And I guess how's the usage been? And maybe if you could describe in one or two sentences of the value proposition of Flexland and why people should use it.
I used to think user feedback was a part of early stage startups. I now think it is the only thing that matters, because at the beginning, you should be just optimizing for generating feedback as much as you can. And once you build something people actually want, which is based on feedback, growth is not easy, but it's much easier. So Flexland has definitely grown a lot faster than Lulo has. We get a lot more positive feedback. We get a lot more like organic usage, and people like really like feeling like they're solving an issue when they use it. So that's really exciting to see. I think the growth like confirms like you don't actually know what you should build just based on instinct. You really have to listen to people. It's the only way to do it right. So I think from here it's there's more product market fit. So now the user feedback also becomes more focused on the product and like how to make it better, rather than like being very sporadic, which is kind of how it feels when you don't have product market fit. The feedback is from all over the place. And so the quality of feedback also changes as you get closer to something people want.
And why should people use Flexland today?
If you don't want to spend hours a day optimizing your lending and you want to earn really, really good rates on USDC specifically and stablecoins, then Flexland's definitely the product for you.
Great. Daniel, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Thank you, Imran.
So, SPL 22 was an interesting kind of like wedge that we're seeing, and we'll see what types of products are being built. But
sorry, can I just come in
please.
real quick? It's like, I mean, I don't know Frank, but I'm just amazed at the community he has built. Right?
he has a good community.
It's like
I actually don't think Frank is a bad guy. I think people overdo it. I think he tried some shit. He learned some shit. And, some things worked, something didn't. Like, did he make a bunch of mistakes? Maybe. I don't know. I still think he...
Yeah, I think the meta point is maybe it's because like everything is so... Like everyone on in crypto Twitter is so like connected. And so there's this like these extreme feedback loops where people just like pile on people because it's fun too and it's entertainment.
And competition also, right?
Right, exactly. Like everyone is just competition is talking to each other at light speed. And I think like in crypto, like realistically, all of these projects, these NFT founders, they're basically doing startups.
They are.
And if you take like Web2 startup metrics, 90% of these guys will fail just by statistics, right? But CT expects everyone to execute perfectly and to not make any mistakes, which is not the case. If you're trying to build something innovative, if you're trying to like start this like brand new Web3 community, you're going to make a ton of mistakes along the way. And you can't fault a guy for ending up like deciding to take this path, which turned out to be wrong.
To be quite frank, I don't think any NFT community has actually found product market fit yet.
Except for
Pudgy Penguins, which
Exactly.
is they're coming very close. They're coming very close. But like if you
When
look at
Pudgy's Orions? That's the real question.
Hit us up, Lucas.
Lucas will be on our podcast.
he'll be on our podcast.
Okay.
nice.
When Jupiter NFTs? That's what we want to know.
Dude, it's crazy. It's like I just said something. I tweeted like, hey, the DAO.
Oh, I remember this.
I tweeted the DAO can consider funding NFT VFEs. And then, oh my God, it became big news. Like, oh, Jupiter is doing NFTs.
Yeah, in 2
I'm
minutes,
like,
we're in your DMs like, so when are we doing this?
Yeah. No, I'm not kidding. It's like so many people DM me after that, right? I was like, no, I didn't say we're doing NFTs. I said that DAO should consider funding NFTs for fun community project. That honestly, that moment was a come to Jesus moment for me. I'm like, okay, wow, I really got to be careful.
Yeah.
That was
Meow,
like a
Meow,
really-
you are a public figure now.
I know. I'm no, dude. No, it's funny because I'm so used to talking shit. Right?
Yeah.
No, seriously, I'm so used to shit talking, right? I'm so used to like whatever. No, like, oh shit, no man, doesn't make sense. But that was interesting because like I tweeted that I went to sleep, right? You know what I'm saying? And then the next morning I bombarded. I'm like, oh my God, everyone's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fucking
These days, your tweets get like easily 5,000 likes.
nah, I don't know, man.
I am very impressed by your engagement.
Sorry.
I am very impressed by your engagement.
Yeah, next
He
topic,
attracts all the cats.
next
all the
topic.
cat lovers, that's the
next
meta.
topic, Yeah. Let's just say that it has been a really big lesson for me recently.
But it's
how
good.
to engage. Yeah.
I want to go back to the NFT.
Sorry, just one last thing
Yes,
real quick on
please.
Frank. Just to say that I think I feel like I'm actually pretty impressed by the Frank's community, DeGods community. I'm sure you guys as well. It's like incredibly resilient, right? And Frank did reach out to me recently, you know.
Nice.
Yeah, and then just say hi, right? And I think I feel like
He could have easily walked away.
yeah,
right?
walked away. Yeah, I think he's still in the game. He's trying to. I think the tribalism of crypto got to him. You know, I think he. I'm not sure, but I think he probably didn't. It's a good topic as well, the tribalism, right? You know, crypto and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. But anyway, in summary, I don't drag this topic on. But just say that like you know, I feel like you know, I feel like we should all be like understanding and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we should be less harsh on Frank, at least on the Solana side.
We should be
right?
less harsh on founders in
And
general.
founders in general.
Yeah.
100% agreed.
I mean, founders just get a lot of shit all the time on Twitter, all the time. Like, even if they do something good, well-intentioned,
they're human.
and
I mean-
successful, like your airdrop, it was very successful in my mind, and people just anyone who didn't get airdrop or missed out on Jupiter,
Yeah, and they're coping.
Yeah, they're coping. And now
And all
imagine,
the ETH maxes are coping too, right?
yeah,
But
exactly.
I feel like the longer you stay in crypto, the more you learn that at the end of the day, you can't make everybody happy. Like no matter what you do, there's going to be somebody unhappy. Like you can drive a truck of gold into someone's apartment and they're going to say, well, why only one truck? You know, like, and I don't know, at some point you just kind of learn to deal with it. And you're
by
just
the way,
like,
on that note, I feel like some of the best marketers in crypto are those who have found a really good nemesis and they're constantly at them. Like they have enemies, and they're aware of it, and they take advantage of that to build their personal brand.
Have you guys seen the Solan versus Margin?
oh my God.
Oh
No,
my God,
what happened?
that was
Tell me.
intense.
I'm not going to comment too much because we like both of them.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know this drama existed.
It's like drama, but it's not really drama. It's just a lot of like
Fun competition.
like really good like disses between the two, you know, founding teams.
hilarious.
It's fun. It's entertainment, right?
Battle.
Okay.
It's a rap battle, yeah. I would say this though, I think I did learn a lot about how to improve in the range of things. You know, I do actually think that even though it's intense, but I feel like there are two things to look at it, right? It can be like, oh, it's so unfair, blah, blah, blah. But I think on my end, I think I generally feel like if I can just take a step back and go, okay, what did I do anything, right? Could I have done anything better, you know, to cause this thing, right? Yeah, I think I learned, you know? Yeah, and to everyone watching and stuff, and I learned.
yeah.
Oh, I'm actually curious. What would you have done differently?
Oh, that requires a completely different podcast.
Let's say
Jupiter podcast.
Let's schedule a podcast like 3 months from now. You know, you can go through all the mistakes and stuff. Yeah, that'll be fun. I think. Yeah, yes, but
So
quite a few.
going back to DeGods and the larger meta, one is like I saw Frank's recent announcement. I think it was a month ago where he came back. He was quiet for a bit. He came back and he's building this entire community, right? Kind of like a YC book face for all of the members of the NFT community. And so you're seeing this with DeGods as an example. With Pudgy Penguins, what you're seeing is you can license your IP and earn some of that revenue.
Interesting.
And then you have Azukis that are using their IP as a way to create anime art and comics, etc. So I guess the question for you guys is, where is the NFT space going? Where are these communities going? You have people that buy and sell these NFTs. What happens next? Like, where do you see this going? What's the product market fit look like here for NFTs?
Beyond JPEG trading.
Beyond JPEG trading.
So maybe specifically talking about Frank, one of his biggest strengths is building the community, right?
Amazing.
The DeGods community is probably one of the best, most tight-knit communities in all of crypto.
and resilient.
And I think he should just double down on that. I think he should focus everything, like whether it's throwing more events, whether it's creating this homegrown community of like founders and builders within DeGods, and just double downing on that and just focusing on community versus maybe other things like IP or utility.
Question for you: How did that come about? I'm just astonished, you know, at how resilient that community is. Like, how did it come about? You know.
I think the idea is he was like a very different person at the time compared to other NFT founders. He was very vocal and he knew how to play the game. So he knew how to attract a bunch of attention from everyone who was on crypto Twitter at the time. He basically had a very interesting narrative, which was creating almost like he describes it as like a frat house or sorority house for everyone in crypto, right? And I think that spoke to a lot of people because a lot of people at the time, which was during COVID, wanted that feeling of belonging to a community.
Interesting.
I think to answer your question of like, where are NFTs going? I actually think the answer is they're going to become more and more diversified. And each community is going to become a mirror of the founder in some way. Like you think about Mad Lads and maybe Tensorians, they're like very oriented towards building and kind of towards like, hey, like let's make something cool. There's a lot of that kind of spirit there. Then you look at something like Klaynos, right? It's a totally different group of people. They're excited about IP. They're excited about movies. They're excited about art. They're excited about creative. Their shorts are some of the funniest I've seen on Twitter, right? Like they're hilarious. And then, you know, you pick the next 10 communities and they're all different. And that's what NFTs should be. They shouldn't be all the same. They should all be different, right?
Interesting.
I also think the idea of like NFTs as communities is just one use case for NFTs.
Definitely.
Right? It's the current meta. It's the most like obvious meta that makes sense, or that people have found, you know, when NFTs became a thing. That just makes sense, like to be the first meta of people like trading NFTs back and forth. But obviously, like NFTs is just a form factor. It's like fungible tokens. You can use it for many things, right? It doesn't have to be just a community. It could be real world assets. It could be basically tokenizing everything in the real world, where most things in real life are non-fungible by nature. Like every single item you buy at a store has a serial number. And if you wanted to tokenize and then eventually financialize all of these items, they have to be NFTs.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's interesting to us as Tensor is we've built the financial rails for all of this stuff. And if crypto eats the world and everything becomes tokenized, then all of this stuff hopefully trades on Tensor.
There is some really weird shit happening on Ethereum already. There's like luxury watches being tokenized as an NFT on chain, and then people would borrow money, borrow fungible like USDC or something off of the watch as a collateral. And so this idea of putting all the assets on chain, it is happening.
Yeah.
Like a few years ago, if you asked me a few years ago, I would have said it's too early. We're too early for this, but it is happening now, and possibly it's going to happen on.
Yeah, the 10x feature there is watches. Like think about like in the real world, where would you go to get like a loan on your watch? There's probably like 2 guys in the world who would do that.
Well, you go to a pawn shop.
There's a
Or
lot.
you go to a pawn shop, which you get like completely ripped off.
Ripped off. Yeah, like loan sharks.
But now you basically get access to this global permissionless liquidity.
The degens.
The degens who are
I
ready
love
to
that.
earn yield on anything. Right?
Yes.
They have so
I
much
love
money just because they were
And
early
this is
to
the power
Ethereum.
of the web or like internet in general, and crypto just accelerates it, which is things that used to be niche start to become global. Like what did Reddit do, right? Reddit created a place for niche communities to go global, and you can all of a sudden find, like if you're interested in, I don't know, collecting red tiles for your house, then all of a sudden you can find another guy who's interested in collecting red tiles for his house, and you guys bond.
This guy is so
Crypto
decent.
takes that to yes. Crypto takes that to another level where not only do you bond based on interest now, but you also bond financially. Because you guys probably both invested in some red tile startup, and you guys have their tokens and their NFTs, and it's all fun and games. And it just like creates another level of connection and brings people together even more.
It almost seems like crypto is sucking the real world in slowly but surely.
Slowly but surely, yeah.
And you know, when we always talk, Qiao, to founders, we're like, you know, just focus on the users that are in crypto. It's very hard to attract people that are outside of crypto. And eventually,
On that note, I'm really annoyed every time someone gives advice on Twitter about, hey, let's focus on the real world rather than
don't build a token.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense because historically for the last 15 years, what has been happening for the last 15 years is you have the real world installing MetaMask one at a time,
One at a time.
always one at a time, and once they're into MetaMask, they start doing some DeFi stuff, NFT stuff, and they get converted because they make money.
Yeah.
And this whole process of user conversion through wallet installation and then making money has been happening for 15 years. And now we have a critical mass of those. There's like there's $2 trillion of on-chain wealth in the hands of those people.
Yep.
Why would you? In the vast majority of startups, it does not make sense to target that world. Just target this world. There's $2 trillion sitting there for you to target.
It's also a lot harder to build anything for the real world. You're going to be up against existing regulations. You're going to be competing with existing players who don't want you there.
They don't really.
You have to deal with atoms rather than bits. I mean, it's literally taking the hardest path.
Yeah.
I feel like on this point, let me put a pitch in for Solana, right? You know, right? It's that I talked to Tolly about this quite a bit. Is that there's actually a lot of value in having a critical mass of markets on Solana, right? And I mean, I didn't say assets in the markets, right? Because you can have assets on Solana or any chain, but it doesn't matter, right? Any markets for them, right? That means that you need extremely liquid. For example, it's one thing to put your luxury watch on chain, right? It's another thing to have a functioning market, right? For that fractionalized watch or for the loans and everything, right? So I feel like that's actually a really big part of it. I think the question becomes think about it, right? Solana had an edge on technology, right? For like last couple of years, probably, right? But as we were talking before the show, it's like at some point, Sui, Aptos, and everyone is going to come up with like as good technology.
Yep.
Right? So question is, okay, so what is Solana's edge going to be, right? I argue that the edge that the community ecosystem, the chain has to build towards is like having a critical mass of markets, right?
And what do you mean by critical mass of markets?
That means that it's quite simple, right? It's like, can we, because Solana, the main thing is that I'm from Jupiter, right? So we take a view on this, right? It's like we want there to be like a lot, all the forex, RWA, shitcoins, right? Meme coins, good coins, whatever, right? To be on one single chain, right? Because when you have one single chain, when you go from WEN to like a RWA to like a PayPal transaction, right? That's powerful, right?
Yeah.
When you have things like and PayPal, like PayPal PYUSD, right? You can go from like any given coin, like WIF to PayPal USD, then it gets the payment. That's powerful, right?
WIF
right?
to Microsoft stock.
No, seriously, right? And another idea I was floating was quite simple, right? It's like, can we actually do it such that can we actually build and this is kind of one of Jupiter's thing, right? My thing, okay? Like around, can we actually build something where we actually incentivize people, right, to instead of to list on chain, right?
You're talking about.
Yeah, it sounds like a crazy idea, but here you go, right? When you list on a penny stock, whatever, right? It's like you don't get much, right? You just get, you really don't get much, right? You just get a lot of shit, But then if we can build a parallel kind of like auditing, parallel verification mechanism, right? Such that if you run, for example, a successful internet company, right? You want to list on chain, you get community, you get capital, you get all the degen, it's more fun, right? Why not? Yeah. Right? So I feel like that's the world that I think we want to move towards, right? Where, okay, can you really have a critical mass of like of tokens and markers, and like use cases, right? In like remittance, everything, and there's tremendous power in having all those things on one network.
It's almost as if like every startup that builds in any sector in the space should just tokenize.
Yeah, precisely.
Do you guys feel threatened by Aptos and Sui?
Here's my take. So I am sure that Sui and Aptos are probably technically equivalent for all intents and purposes, like same TPS, same, maybe even better developer experience based on what I've heard. But if you think about like all of these different chains as like snowballs, all of them start rolling down this big hill, right, at different times. Solana basically started rolling down this hill 2-3 years ago, right? Right during the bull market, they were able to battle test their infrastructure. They were able to onboard everyone who was priced out of Ethereum to start trading NFTs on Solana. Hence why there's such a big NFT community on Solana right now. And they're just like further down the hill and they're growing and they're getting bigger and bigger than Sui and Aptos. And all this like momentum tends to compound in that if you see a big snowball like Solana rolling down the hill and you're a builder and you want to like follow the biggest snowball, you'll probably choose to build on Solana more often than you choose to build on Aptos or Sui. And as you start to like see these compounding effects occur amongst builders, amongst liquidity, amongst like products and infrastructure, that's where Solana can like probably pull ahead of Sui and Aptos to a significant point where it doesn't matter like if these other chains are just as technically capable as Solana.
Precisely. So just to add on to that, right? First of all, developer pain is a feature, not a bug. Okay. The 75 developers on Solana will tell you that, right? It's like it's like really like having gone through that period, where we just really figured out a lot of things. I think it's actually a sense of pride, among Solana developers. But beyond that, I think Rich is exactly right. Say for example, right, say you're building a RWA thing, right? And what's the first thing you need, right? You need access to like users, right? And people use you and buy your stuff, right? You can build on Ethereum, but mainnet, because that's actually where most of the liquidity is. But then your user base is going to be quite limited because of the gas cost, right? You can build on L2, but there are very few L2s that have sufficient critical mass, right? You can build on Sui or Aptos, right? Or any other Cosmos chain, which is fine, but they wouldn't have the same level of like user adoption, right? So I feel like for the next couple of years at least, I feel like Solana is going to have I think you knew that, right? A really big advantage, in being the only chain that's performant enough with critical mass of users. And guys, by the way, the fact is that like the meme coin community and the NFT community and the perps community is very strong on Solana. And it's the only chain that has a really strong like meme coin, and apart from Ethereum mainnet, right? But again, Ethereum mainnet has an issue of like being very expensive to use, right? But apart from that, think about it. Solana is the only chain that has like a very strong NFT community, meme coin community, and perps community and trading community, right? And I think that cannot be understated in terms of new assets coming on chain.
You guys are the three of the most legendary builders on Solana.
No.
You are, by objectively, just by looking at the volume. You're fully committed to Solana. You're loyal to Solana, at least for now, for the foreseeable future. Now, I want you guys to steelman Ethereum. What are some of the things that are good about Ethereum that you appreciate? Or maybe even ask another way. What are some of the reasons why Ethereum would ultimately beat Solana?
I think the obvious one is liquidity mode. Ethereum still has a lot more liquidity. And Ethereum also has a lot more mindshare with more mature institutional players. I think if somebody seriously thinks about storing millions of dollars of on-chain assets, probably Ethereum is their number one choice right now. So I wouldn't underestimate that and how difficult that is to surmount. I still think that, I know that like Santiago and some other guys are saying like, oh, there's a good chance Solana beats Ethereum. I think that chance is pretty small. And I think like Solana would really need to pull a miracle for that to happen. Like obviously we're going to work our asses off to make that happen. But at the end of the day, I don't think that chance is like, near like 50% or something. And I think it's basically that liquidity mode, developer mode as well, better tooling, more developers. Like Ethereum has probably 4 or 5 times more developers. And maybe one other thing I observed is often Ethereum developers tend to be a little bit more mission driven. And that means that sometimes they're more enduring and they build products that maybe take a bit longer to build, but end up being a little bit more interesting. And I think Solana builders have a little bit to learn there, us included.
Yeah, my perspective is, so like I mentioned with momentum compounding for Solana versus Sui and Aptos, the same thing applies for Ethereum. I think that compounding effect is very hard. It's very hard for Solana to catch up to the point where it can flip Ethereum. The other thing is, I'll give you an example, like AngelList, for example. If you want to like invest through crypto, they don't accept Solana, they don't accept anything else. And that goes back to like the idea that people just have that narrative in their mind that Ethereum is more secure. These big institutions who do want to jump into crypto and like have some notion of like, okay, Solana is this newer chain. Ethereum is basically the first smart contract L1 that took off. Probably better just from a risk mitigation perspective to just go with Ethereum, even though it may cost our users a bit more. They're paying a premium for that because of risk. I think on Solana, we tend to, and I do this a lot on Twitter, we tend to like trash Ethereum because it's technically like inferior in certain ways and you're paying a lot more for gas fees. But a part of me thinks like at a certain point, Ethereum will get to the point where the fees are a lot lower. Maybe it's not like a penny of a penny, but it's a tenth of a penny. And that's like good enough for most people. And their snowball is still big enough to capture most of the mind share, and they'll do fine in the long run.
We're starting to see a new behavior change with builders where they're starting to take mini rollups or app rollups, and they're starting to pay for their customers' fees. So like Avo is an example who we interviewed last podcast.
Oh, I love Julian.
Julian's great.
I love Julian.
And
Julian,
so,
I love you.
And so what he's doing is, specifically him, is they're using data. They're using different ways to like make the fees cheaper, to the point where now that he's paying for all the fees, so customers don't see the fees at all. And so they are like looking for ways to compete with Solana in ways that can kind of give them similar experiences. So just kind of a thought to that.
Yeah, I think I love Ethereum. I mean, we go way back, right?
Yeah,
way back and stuff. Yeah, okay, we've done. I mean, WBTC and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah,
Things like that, right? And so I don't know. I don't really see that as a competition, right? I don't, which is why I feel sad when I get trashed on by.
I mean,
people.
you made,
but let's not get there. I think Ethereum has a I mean, if you go to like Stanford Blockchain Week, right, you'll be astonished, right? All these like really top level researchers coming from every single part of the world, every single institution, and they have such a unique view of Ethereum, right? You know, and that's coming on all kinds of angles, right? You don't see that in Solana, not by far, right? The only blockchain that can ever be that is Bitcoin, right? Just like the pure diversity of like researchers just coming into solving all the different problems, right? Roll-ups and everything. You just don't see that anywhere else, right? So I think that's actually one huge thing, you know?
Mert's trying to create that, right? With Xerox Mert. I don't know.
I think
they had a
His name
research.
is Mert.
Is Mert, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, yeah, I know. I think it's very
It's
different.
from Toronto, the hub of crypto.
But he's trying to create like a research, more people to
I think it's
contribute
very
research for
different.
Solana, right?
Yep. It's like a Telegram group. I'm not in it because
Okay.
I'm apparently not smart enough. So Mert, whenever you think I'm smart enough, add me into the
Bro,
group.
if you're not smart enough, there's hope for the rest of us.
But he's trying to like recreate some of this, right? It seems like.
Yeah,
I think it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
Solana
it
has a
to be
pragmatic
organic.
culture. It's a different culture. You
It's
guys
different
talked
culture,
about this. It's like
precisely.
engineering driven.
It's engineering
I
driven.
tweeted this.
Yeah.
I said Solana is engineers and Ethereum is computer
researchers.
scientists.
Yeah.
And somehow the Ethereum maxis were pissed at that.
Yeah.
It's a fucking compliment.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean,
But anything you say to them, they'll get pissed.
Yeah, that's right.
but guys, let's get to the point, right? I think the point here is that like there's no good or bad, right? The fact that Solana is so engine driven, right, also means that you have a more single source of failure, right? You know, whereas the Ethereum is like very like the whole research arm is like very decentralized at this point, right?
Yeah.
It's a good thing. I think the other good thing is that I think we are actually seeing so. You know how we talked about Solana having like one big network, everything, right? You know, but the good thing about our tools is that like you know, the tools look at our tools, right? When you spin our tool, you can think of it, another L2, why the fuck do we care, right? You know, or you think, wow, another L2, new tokens, new farms, new users, right? You know, right?
That's a good way to look at it.
No, seriously, no,
I have a tweet for this. I didn't want to tweet it out because that will piss off the Ethereum maxis. But that's exactly the bull.
But you already said it.
It's our
here,
alpha.
so-
That's exactly the bull case for modularity.
precisely. It's a book. It's very very hard for like. There's no way someone can go on Solana right now and spin up a SPL token swap and be like, hey token, it's very hard. No one will care, right? You know. But come on, man. On Ethereum, you spin on your R2, you copy paste Uniswap, V2,
Copy
V3.
paste you. You said it like it was.
No, that's exactly how it works. That's exactly how it works. You go on spin on your R2.
Meow leaking the next 6 months of his roadmap right now.
I'm just saying, right? It's like it's a bull case, right? You know what I'm saying?
That's the bull case.
It's a bull case. Hey, there you go. It's a bull
Bull
case. It's not a
case.
bad case. It's a bull case, right?
Yeah.
And what that means is that it gives you so much more room to bootstrap an entirely new ecosystem.
Exactly.
See, it's not a shit case. It's a bull case, right? It's
a bull case.
It's a bull case. You can go there. You can go to any part of the world and be like, hey, I want to do a Papua New Guinea L2, right? And you can. I'm serious, right?
And they'll go.
No, I'm serious. And then you can spin your own. You can spin your own DeFi ecosystem from scratch, right?
Yeah.
And your own culture, own community. You can't do that on Solana,
Yeah.
right? Because Solana has a community already, right?
Well, I mean,
know?
you could build rollups for
There's
Solana.
another actually
Nah,
benefit
it's
to
not
L2s,
same. Yeah,
and that's like segregation of apps might actually be good.
Yeah, precisely.
Because
Yeah.
if you have an app that's doing a lot of damage to the chain, the problem with Solana is even though there's kind of local fee markets, they don't quite fully work right now. But the problem is like something like Drip, which is like printing NFTs in the millions, is actually kind of making our life hard because we need to ingest all those NFTs in all of our data pipelines right now. And the benefit of these L2s is that you take a very heavy app that needs like a lot of the chain's capabilities and you segment it away.
What about like localized fee markets and dimensionality that Anatoly talks about? How are you guys thinking about that?
So actually, it's not perfect yet, right?
Okay.
But thankfully, I think 1.1, and we know because we do that a lot, right? You know, we did that a lot. So I think 1.1 is going to be a lot better, right? So it's not binary, right? It never works perfectly, right? But the thing is that I think over time it worked better and better, right? And I think the next major upgrade, 1.18, is supposed to be like the version that really makes it much better. You know, yeah, the sequence and everything.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
guys go ahead?
I was gonna say, like in theory, localized fee market is you're basically taking like parallelism to the extreme.
Mhm.
We optimize the heck out of it in hardware, and you just hope that hardware will scale to the point where it can service basically all state that will ever live on a blockchain. or live in, you know, crypto. Yes, like in theory that might work, but there are practical limitations, like just engineering bandwidth. Like Solana, they have a great engineering team, but even then, like there are, you know, bugs come up. They might be like hampered by some other like unrelated like performance thing that they have to deal with. Like the practical situation is there are like roadblocks and there are like friction points as you sort of work towards this vision of like localized fee markets taking over anything that you need to do when it comes to parallelization. Whereas I think like the app chain model, like you can sort of see it working practically now. And at a certain point, maybe we do need app chains in order to act as that bridge between the current state of like localized fee markets and the perfect theoretical model of localized fee markets.
I mean, Aave is a good example, right? You know, it's like they take something that is like really gonna be extremely hard to build on Ethereum, right? You know, and also probably subject to a lot of other constraints on Solana, right? And just say I'm going to build an L2 that is very, very specific, right? You know, for the given purpose, right? You know, yeah, and I feel like that would be probably a good model for L2s in the end. It's like, how do I create an L2 that I don't need to care about anything else, nothing else at all, right? And I don't care about like what's happening on our chain. I don't care about, you know, drip minting a million things, right? So my honest answer is that I have a bull case for both Solana and Ethereum, right? My bull case for Solana is that I think the world would seriously move a big step forward when you have all the use cases like payments and remittances and transfers and all the markers and on one chain, right? Because there's no way that you know, a multi-chain world can be as good as that, right? But on the other hand, as we discussed this, right, is that there's also many reasons, right, why you know, including the ability to create a new ecosystem with its own tokens, ability to kind of create your own self-resilient like use case, right? You know, and decentralization and everything that will make it feasible, right? You know, for Ethereum L2 ecosystem. So I'm a big bull of both, you know. So yeah.
What I like about Solana specifically is that you know, there's a team that's like focused on onboarding new use cases and new users. And an example of this is like token extensions, right? A way to create private transactions, a way to list RWAs, a way to do X. I feel like those are some interesting ways to onboard new types of product builders to build some products around it. What are your thoughts on extensions, I guess, maybe is the pivot?
I get super bullish. Extensions, I think most people underappreciate the power they unlock. So for those who don't know, extensions are basically these things that let you create a token with like God powers. Like it can do things like, oh, I'll only allow this transfer if XYZ conditions are met. Or, oh, this transfer is completely private, it's hidden. Or, oh, every time a transfer happens, some percentage of the transferred funds is paid as royalty to the creator. It just unlocks a swath of use cases that are very hard to do for token creators otherwise.
It's a library. It's a set of smart contracts that other people can build on top of.
Sort of. It's actually even easier than that. It's basically a bunch of methods you call when you create the token. So you don't even need a separate smart contract for it. It's baked into the runtime itself.
Okay.
Nice.
It's super powerful.
Yeah. This sort of goes back to like the idea that Solana is more practical. They're trying to meet the real world where it is instead of sort of a theoretical argument that maybe if crypto eats, you know, the entire world, then this system will work perfectly. But right now, that's not the case. Like a lot of people think, a lot of institutions, the biggest like kickback that they give crypto is they can't do KYC.
Yep.
And the only way to do KYC is maybe what Uniswap did, where they introduced a transfer hook specifically to Uniswap, but maybe not other programs. And yes, like a lot of people on Ethereum basically fudded it because it's not decentralized. They're basically trying to corrupt crypto. But Solana is seeing it from a different perspective, where their mission is to onboard as many people into crypto. And the only way to do that is to meet in the middle with institutions and give them these transfer hooks, give them a KYC hook in order to like get people to build on Solana.
It's funny, the whole ERC 404 dilemma, right? Where people that want to introduce their own standards, you really can't. There's a whole EIP process that, you know, people have to go through just to get some sort of like real world use cases. And on Solana, by introducing this set of like libraries, anyone can build any types of use cases. And I think that's what Ethereum should be doing also.
The other big thing coming up in Solana is Firedancer. And I have two very important questions I've never been able to find the answers to. First question is when? And the second question is how much? How much faster? You guys are builders. You may not know the answer, may or may not know the answer, but I'm curious if you have a view, any rough estimate on these two questions.
I'd be lying to you if I knew when. It sounds like it's right around the corner. Maybe this year. I think they might go on DevNet, from what I've heard. In terms of TPS, so caveat this: a lot of like TPS numbers you see in general for any chain is completely like unrealistic. It's just like it kind of reminds you of like benchmarking and like databases where like you have like you have these like very contrived artificial benchmarks, and they say like, oh, you know, this database can achieve 1 million TPS, but in practice, like that's not the case. And I think that's the same with Firedancer, where, you know, yes, it can do 3 million TPS, which is actually massive. I think given real world use cases, it's still very bullish in that, from what I've heard, if you just take all of the existing transactions on Solana and try to like plummet through Firedancer, it could probably get to like 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 easily, which is basically a 10x improvement on Solana currently.
Yeah.
Our AWS bill will go from $70K a month to $700K a month.
Yes, people forget that.
Literally, like, who has to ingest all that data? The real beneficiary from all of this is Bezos and AWS.
Bezos, for sure. No, it's funny because he said that your revenue also goes up. It's not necessary because like when guys, it's actually really interesting because people always think that like a data equals more revenue, right, or something. No, that's not true because like when your cost of putting data on chain becomes much lower, right? What increases? Spam.
Yeah.
Spam, right? So it's like, so as builders, right, we're actually dealing with a lot of spam, you know, right? Literally, right? It's like for example, like 20 tokens account for like the vast majority of trading volume, right? You know, but there are like a gazillion tokens that we have to cater to everyone, right? Yeah. You know, and yeah, our AWS is a bit, so, you know, yeah. But actually on this point of Firedancer, right, I feel like people are, and correct me if I'm wrong, okay? But I feel like people are somewhat like obsessed with the TPS numbers and all these things. But I feel like the real benefit here is around like diversity, right? It's gonna be the first. It's gonna be the first chain that one of the first chains besides Bitcoin, Ethereum, that has like an entirely different validator, you know, system. But no, this is not good or bad. It's more complicated. You know, like how will these two validators work in practice together? You know, right?
Right. You have one that's much faster than the other. How do they?
And one that's more proven than the other, right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Right. So I think the answer is that we don't know, right? You know, right? I think we can probably find answers if you look at Ethereum's, how Ethereum has done in the past. You know? Like how they've done stuff. But I think like I have no idea how the two TPS systems would kind of hang out, you know, together. So
I want to know is, do I get points if I'm gonna run Firedancer client?
$5 fire. Let's go.
Exactly.
Hey, there's W.
Fire points.
There's W and P for you. Want a fire? Let's go.
Yeah.
Hey, fire on my fire.
The practical concern is, so I think if Firedancer is really pushing 10x, if not more, TPS than the original client, then you can imagine all these validators will just move to Firedancer because they can make 10x.
Yeah.
I think this is how it works. They can make 10x the transaction fees. And then you sort of like perhaps see this big shift of people just moving to another client, and you don't get that client diversity. That's my layman view of it. Maybe it's actually different. But that's like maybe one sticking point that might come up in the client diversity argument.
Interesting.
This actually, so again, like going back to like we kind of spoke about other blockchains coming online. I kind of feel it's pretty hard for them right now because I feel there's like two like counter positioning spots, the same way that there's two in mobile, there's two in operating systems. And I feel the two in blockchains are slower but more decentralized, and faster but more kind of maybe not centralized, but like just different, built differently. More focused. Yeah. And good one. But yeah, so I guess what I'm getting at is, well, holy shit, like Sui or Aptos better have like a connection to Jump to build another Firedancer, right? Because like this thing took years in the making, and it's going to go online, and it's going to be really hard to compete with. And so I don't know, actually. I don't know if there's going to be a third blockchain that pops the same way these two did.
The distant third right now is Cosmos. Like if you view like the trade-off areas in the 3D visualization, then you have Ethereum orthogonal to Solana. But then there's a third dimension, which is Cosmos, which provides a lot of customizability.
But like app chains, right?
Yeah, app chains, but like really big apps, right?
Are you fading
like UIDX?
I mean, no,
Trading,
I can't speak my
Polkadot.
mind about Polkadot. I just empirically, if you look at the data of great founders building on Polkadot, it's been going downhill.
Yeah,
for the
they've
last
been
2
leaving
years.
Polkadot.
Do you guys have
Yeah.
an idea of why, let's say, Polkadot or even what's the other one? The other Ethereum founder, Cardano.
Cardano.
I just think of
Cardano's
them as
just a
Ethereum
new one.
founders.
Yeah.
Actually, why did they not take off at all?
I don't know. I have two
Yeah.
hypotheses. I have no idea if it's true or not.
I love that. I love that.
I have one idea too.
Well,
Yeah.
let's hear it.
I share it.
Okay, Polkadot go to market for every chain. For every chain, their customers are developers basically. Polkadot's go to market, first go to market, they went for, in my experience, very mercenary developers, and that was like peak ZERP, peak 2020, 2021. There were a lot of developers that were not missionary. They're very mercenary. They built on Polkadot to make a quick buck. And the moment the bull market died, the whole ZERP died, they just went away. So they lost their developer community. So you and I spoke with quite a few Polkadot developers from back in the day, in that era, and we just didn't see, in terms of quality of developers building on Polkadot. There's certainly, the quality is certainly there, but the quality was never on par with Solana and Ethereum and Cosmos.
I also think it was the way you secure the parachains was the biggest issue.
Yes, that was my other argument.
Okay, yeah.
Go
so
ahead.
like I mean like in order for you to have a parachain, you need people to stake their dot. And they go through this auctioning process. You have to hit a certain threshold. And it's like it went to like 50 million. I mean, it was really hard to compete.
Yep.
And so only very few people were able to secure that much dot to secure the chain. And I think it was like 3 or 4, and then it kind of fell off from there.
That was a self-own. Like they didn't have to do this.
They didn't have to do
They did this because they wanted to have some kind of value accrual,
like
like
moat.
dot
Exactly.
token.
Precisely. Actually, so that, I mean, that's the main thing, right? Is that I feel like it became a system whereby like everyone became working for the dot holders as working for their own
They were
thing.
trying to like sell me, like
Yeah.
come on, just stake your. I'm like, dude, just
You remember
Precisely,
those builders who pitched us?
yeah.
They told us, if you want an allocation in our product, you need to stake some dot.
Exactly.
That was back in the day.
It completely
Precisely.
reversed. Like the founders should be thinking about themselves, not the
Yes.
product, not the product they're
Precisely.
building on.
Precisely. Yeah.
So I think that was that's the other.
So you
reason
ended
why.
up with founders that were really good at talking, because you had to go to all the dots holders and be pitched yourself and hi, I'm so great at everything, right? So I feel like it created a system where besides mercenary, you have people that promise a lot upfront, right? And not just that. So they promise a lot upfront, but they also have to offer a lot upfront, right?
Yeah.
You know. So what ended up is that they actually offer a lot, right? You know, to the dot holders, right? And obviously, you know, what happens in the end. Yeah.
I also think the team kind of lost their magic. Like I think the token went live, people got rich, and you could tell. Like we worked pretty closely with the Polkadot team, and they kind of, I felt like they lost the
hunger?
the competitiveness, the hunger. Like when you talk to Anatoly, like I'm like, God, like it's like he just started his startup. Like he's so hungry.
That fucker is like talking about duopoly. It's like going all day long. About, I'm going to disrupt the duopoly, of like Apple and Google. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, dude, where did this come from? All right, I'll help out. But it's amazing. He's like calling everybody.
The hunger's
Hey,
still
hello,
there.
how do you do these things? Sorry.
I have one question that I'm curious to get your guys' takes on. So obviously today, crypto is super tribal. Each blockchain is basically its own little nation with like patriots. Do you guys think 10 years from now, it's still going to be tribal?
I think as long as there's a token, there will be tribal.
Yeah, me too.
I think it'll get more tribal. not
More
less.
tribal. Wow.
It'll get worse.
I haven't heard that one.
I think
Racism, but in
It's religion. It's religion,
It's
but
religion.
but with money.
At least for the intellectually honest people, which is like you two guys, right? Clearly, you guys started off on Ethereum, and actually Meow too. You guys started off on Ethereum, but we were super open-minded on Solana, right? And that's why you guys accepted us into Accelerator. I think if you fundamentally believe that this chain is different enough and offers like some unique value prop that Ethereum, let's say, doesn't offer, you don't care about like being traveled to like Ethereum all the way through just because you made a massive bag on Ethereum.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just coping, right? It's an anti-cope effect for me.
I feel like I actually feel like Tolly has a really and probably Vertil as well. They have a pretty healthy mindset on these things, right? They kind of know that like, okay, whatever we do, there's always gonna be other things around, right? And also it's pretty important to just have an open mindset on things, right? So I feel like Tensor and us are probably similar as well. It's not about like being maxi. it's just about recognizing what we want to build and what's good, right? Yeah. So I feel like that's how I think.
Yeah, it's like when people ask us, is Tensor planning to move off Solana, and we say no. It's actually mainly driven by the fact that there's just so much to build on Solana, and we just want to build it. Like, why would we leave? There's like so much design space. Now, is that answer going to be the same 10 years from now? I don't know. Maybe not, right?
Probably
and maybe there's the new, not Lana chain, and we go there. I don't know. But like, at least right now, there's like hyper unexplored design space on Solana to go and play with.
It's a very similar thing for us, right? I feel like the main thing for us is that we want to provide deep value, right? And it's very hard to provide deep value when you are spread out,
Yeah.
You actually want to like say, hey, and also not just that, I think you guys know, right? It's like, I feel like another thing that real builders know that other people don't is that a lot of times value is from being embedded in the ecosystem. Right? It's not just, when you go to an ecosystem, the tech can be the same, it can be the same, but it's not the same because the ecosystem is different, right? So I feel like for us right now, I think we have this like very deep connection in the community and ecosystem. Right? And I think that's actually really big for us, right? And for me personally, you guys know, right? I've been working on multi-chain for a long time, right? So for us, for me, it's not so much like, okay, I think not so much, I don't think it makes sense for us to like build Jupiter on another chain, right? But finding ways to kind of like connect Solana to other chains, that's a pretty big topic for us, Yeah.
So question for you guys. What are your thoughts on Blur launching Blast, the founder?
I think Pac-Man is solving a problem that he has, right? Now,
Sounds like a very political answer.
What problem is there? What problem is there?
Well, he wants to build a perp product or like more advanced primitives, and Ethereum is too slow for him. And he saw an opportunity to verticalize and own the entire stack. And I respect that, because when you verticalize and own the entire stack, you can build things that other people can't build. DYDX did the same thing. Now, do I think the whole multi-sig drama is the way it should have been done? I mean, probably no. But like the decision of a builder to go verticalize and build an Apple-esque experience, holy shit, let's go. I think that's awesome.
I'm going to take a different take, and that is, I think he also saw this massive opportunity, which is to build an L2 that just, I guess, I don't know what you call it, like restaking, or you natively stake, when you bridge over, it's already staked.
Yeah.
So you're already earning
that's
yield.
so beautiful, so elegant.
It is, right? It makes so much sense. Like, why would you build, or why would users use Arbitrum or Optimism where they're not earning no yield naturally by using all of these protocols like Uniswap, when you can just port over to Blast and just earn like, 3%, 4% yield? People
were so upset about Blast, but this thing alone, the native
Genius.
yield is really elegant. And that just speaks to me that Taishun, the founder of Blast and Blur, is one of the handful of people who truly understand the degens. Like, he understands the users better than anyone else.
Yeah. I mean, whenever you get a polarizing reaction, you're onto something.
Yeah.
The worst one is when you do a product drop and nobody cares. People are like,
You're doing good.
I'm doing good.
yeah. Whenever you get a polarizing reaction, you're onto something.
Yeah.
If people just give you a thumbs up and they're like, this is cool, well, then they're going to forget about you the next 5 minutes. But if half the people can't live without it and half the people think you're a dumbass, then you're definitely on
it goes back to like crypto is part building the future of finance, but also part entertainment. Where in entertainment, you don't want to be someone in the middle, right? You don't want to be like non-controversial. You don't want to have like mid-curve takes. You want to either be on the extremely like positive side of things, like optimistic side of things, or you want to be a pessimist.
That's why every day I either wake up laughing or crying.
Nice.
Both.
My version of that is the evening shower. So I always take that evening shower, and I'm always staring at the wall, and I'm always either too fucking worried to fall asleep, or I'm too ecstatic to fall asleep. And I'm just like standing there in the shower for like an hour, just like staring at the white wall.
That's why I love crypto. I'll never leave it.
Yeah. I actually think so. I don't think people outside of crypto realize how much more you're taking on as a founder in crypto. Well, like in Web 2, you have all the problems of hiring, operations, fundraising, product market fit, like all of that stuff. In crypto, you have all of that. And you're a public speaker, and you're a public persona, and you're running a community, and you have to deal with regulations and securities and legal, and like it is basically like 2-3 jobs combined in one. And I don't know, like if I knew everything right now, if I knew everything I know right now, would I start a crypto startup? Yeah, I definitely have to like think about it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, the fact that there's so much you have to consider as a founder going to the space. And we saw like a bunch of like founders actually leave crypto and go into AI.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
found it to be
so
difficult.
many.
That
They're like, fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah.
for us, like, I mean, that's an opportunity, right? Because there's less competition, and the upside is much higher, right? Because now you're building on this hyper financialized platform, if you will, or technology.
Hyper connected, right? In the first place. Yeah.
Hyper connected. And like the opportunity is massive for us, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's worth it.
Yeah. I guess we'll find out.
What is the future of Tensor? I know the future of Jupiter, at least you mentioned, which is like getting more like real world assets on chain as an example. Like stocks, right? Like pink sheets, right?
I just not really reward numbers, but just like I think the whole point here is that what is like how do we get as many like markers and assets and use cases onto one chain as possible, right? You know, and including can we really bring like listing right on chain, right? I think that was huge. You know, you can do that because I think if we start doing those three things, firstly migration. Can we actually get enough people to migrate, right, on chain, right? Secondly, is like, can we get enough, like, because for example, right, in the real world, right, for example, the Nasdaq and CME and all these things, they're fundamentally fragmented, right? You know, but Forex are fragmented. But then on chain, they're the same thing. We don't care, you know, right? The on chain, the CME, the Nasdaq, the Forex market can list in one transaction, and it's amazing. Right? I mean, from anyone who is like in traditional finance, they go, wow, holy shit! It's like you have all these things on chain in one market. Fully transparent, and the whole transaction costs like 0.002 cents, right? And all the fees and everything is fully transparent, right? So I feel like that's the second thing, right? Can we really bring as many markets on chain as possible, right? And thirdly is that when it comes to stocks, I don't really think of it as like I think a real game here is not really in bring Nasdaq on chain. I think a real game here is that can we actually make it such that people want to list on chain instead, right? And that would don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's easy, right? You know. Although I do want to run the pilot this year, you know, right?
So companies, traditional companies listing on Jupiter.
Yeah. Yes. And then so Jupiter providing the framework, right? You know, for that to happen, right? You know, and guys, we actually have enough like degens that will ape in.
I'll ape in.
DJs will ape into anything.
Yeah.
Anything will
precisely. So I feel like right now, so I do want to run the pilot this year. You know, right? But I think the way to do it is not to say, hey, let's do it right away, but more like a pilot, right? So I think the future of Jupiter is quite simple. I think, first of all, I think we just need to execute really well on things that we already have, right? You know, including a launchpad, including all the products, right? The first thing, right? And then the longer term is around like either multi-chain, right? You know, right? But not bring Jupiter on other chains, but more like how do we kind of like make it easier, right? To transact between chains, right? Different things, okay? I don't think we'll ever go like Jupiter on Street Aptos. We won't do that. And thirdly, it's like, okay, can we do the more futuristic stuff? You know, right? Can we really think about how do we say what are like the most what are the most like common pain points, right, of TradFi, right? You know, and how do we solve them on chain, right? You know, so that's actually something I'm really interested in.
For me, the main pain point is just all the fucking paperwork, the KYC. Like every year you have to sign something. Like,
don't you think like eventually all of that stuff will catch up to crypto? In that, like, you know, if let's say hypothetically, we somehow get stocks onto like crypto rails, wouldn't I don't know, the SEC come in and say, okay, you have to KYC everyone?
I think this stuff is extremely malleable still. Like we as an industry, we have the possibility and the ability to shape how we want it to.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for example, that can be. Also, I feel like we are taking a very Western way of the world look at it. Right, there are probably a gazillion like good startups in like, you know, Nigeria, you know, or like a lot of places, you know, right? That would strongly benefit. Like for example, when I say I want to do the stock exchange thing, right? People automatically assume that, okay, I'm going to target like a famous like web company in the Western world. Maybe not. Maybe there's this
future startup. Yeah.
Maybe there's really good company in Kenya, right? You know, that would benefit from having an auditing firm that is like based somewhere else, legitimate auditing firm based somewhere else, and then we can promote them, right? You know, so I feel like there's a lot of ways you can go about it. You know, yeah. So I feel like
that's a really interesting thesis. I've never thought of it.
Yeah, think right now. Think about it now. Yeah,
you're basically making Nasdaq open to the entire world.
Precisely.
And because blockchain enables that.
Yeah, precisely because why are we that company will find it really hard to list on Nasdaq.
Or you competing with Nasdaq.
There's only ever 4,000 public companies listed in the US. And the vast majority of companies don't meet the bar, don't meet their standards, requirements.
Yeah, or they're just
Yeah,
not,
and it's democratizing
Precisely,
capital markets, which is exactly what crypto set out
And
to
they
do.
and SPACs try to do that.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like the stablecoin movement, where the adoption of stablecoin, it seems like it's not like skyrocketing in the West, except for like amongst crypto people, but it's skyrocketing in these, I guess, like overseas countries that
Precisely,
don't have
precisely.
financial rails.
Precisely,
right?
precisely. So that's a really, really good point, right? It's like for me, like transferring something, an asset is what is seemingly very trivial for us, right? It's very difficult for other people. You know, like stable assets is a great example, right? You know, right? Yeah. Like if you're in US dollar is a thing, it's like it's just everything you use, right? It's cash and everything, right? But then if you are like say in South America or America, man, even getting access to a dollar is very difficult. You know, right? It's crazy difficult, you know?
We have a startup that's trying to solve that in South Africa.
We have one in South Africa,
Yeah.
one in Nigeria,
Wow,
one in
really?
one in Central America, and then one in South America in this batch.
Yeah.
Because I'm personally
Wow.
so fucking bullish the whole
Yep.
landscape of stablecoin being adopted in emerging countries.
Because USD is not available. It's all dried up in
Dude,
South Africa.
I'm telling
as
you
an
guys, yes,
example.
so interesting. Everyone who's interested in this thing, right, should really read up on like, so anyone who actually thinks of USD as something that is like easily accessible, right, should really go read up, right, on how difficult it is to get USD.
There is a massive shortage of US dollar in the whole of
Massive
Africa
shortage.
right now.
Yep.
Massive shortage, right? You know, and the whole liquidity rate is crazy, you know.
This is like a perfect wedge into Africa and
Perfect wedge,
stable
perfect
coins.
wedge.
I'm surprised, like, I mean, maybe I don't know, like the Fed hasn't really picked up on this, but this is their way to just like continue to push US dollars down people's, like other people's throats.
Yeah.
Such a cell phone to not support stablecoin.
Well, if Trump becomes president, maybe they'll be more pro crypto.
Vote Trump.
I mean, I have so many thoughts on this, but I'll just don't worry.
So for the Tensor team, what is the future of Tensor? Is it always going to be a place where you sling JPEGs? Or is it going to be a platform for RWAs? And like, what is the future?
Yeah, it's super simple. I mean, half the assets in the world, maybe more, are non-fungible. And clearly everything is trending towards digitalization. So a lot of those assets are going to end up as NFTs. And what we're building is hopefully the liquidity layer that powers all of that. So the trading of all non-fungible assets. And just like you guys, I mean, we're super excited to bring on real world assets that are non-fungible onto the chain, whether that means working with partners or doing that ourselves, but, you know, financializing the world on Solana and making all of that trade on Tensor.
Let's do it.
You would expect different clients, different front ends serving different verticals,
100%.
right? And you would provide the SDK, the API, the backend.
Yeah, I think the other point here is, at least I genuinely believe that this is only possible on Solana, and there are two reasons. Opos, exactly.
Opos.
The first reason is there's enough of an organic NFT community already that will basically help us bootstrap and basically like help fund us essentially with all the fees we're collecting to build up this infrastructure for this like utopian view of how NFTs will become, everything in the real world will become financialized as NFTs, and will provide the rails. The second point is Solana is one of the future, I mean, compared to Ethereum L1, everything happens on chain on Solana, which means you don't have to communicate to some off-chain database that has some like signed message for a listing. You can do everything on chain, which means that you can actually build a permissionless marketplace layer without someone ever having to talk to, you know, the core team. And I think that's like pretty powerful. I think it's one of the only things. It's the opportunity for Solana. It's the opportunity for us.
Actually, just want to add on that real quick, right? Is that I feel like what people don't see, right, is that yes, people trade shitcoins, right, and meme coins right now, right? People are able to generate assets and just like trade them super easily, right? Like someone can literally create an asset on Meteor or Radium, immediately Jupiter picks it up, and immediately it's like routable across everything, right? Same thing for Tensor, right? Someone can create NFT anywhere, you guys picked it up, right? Things like that. I feel like what people don't see right now is that how is a direct line, right? Like when like Tensor can easily support any other RWAs, right, or any NFTs, right? It's like supporting this like what the JPEG thing, right? Is the technology and the use case is extremely similar, right, to in the future supporting all kinds of other quote unquote more serious.
Yeah, the JPEG is the proof of concept. You do
Precisely.
it for fun, but that's how you bootstrap the real
Precisely.
infrastructure
People
for
don't
real
see that.
assets.
People try to precisely. People don't see that, right? People try to go the other way around, right?
Yep.
You know, people try to go, oh, let me take the most serious and boring thing and put it on chain, right?
It's like forums, right? Forums in Web2 initially were used by like San Francisco nerds talking about what they had for lunch. And now all of a sudden forums is how the world communicates.
Yep.
And so that's the same thing that's going to happen to assets.
Yeah, and then every tweet is in essence a forum, right? You know, every Facebook post, Instagram is in essence a forum as well, right? You know, so I feel like
Can't contain my bullishness. Keep
no, so
Keep going. It's Valentine's Day at the end of it.
yeah, Valentine's Day, right? There you go. You know?
this is a perfect Valentine's Day gift for me. Qiao, any final questions?
I think this is the greatest episode we've recorded.
Wow.
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 Let's go.
All right.
Big shoes to step into.
Maybe one last question. When token?
when
Well, we know
not if but when.
Yeah.
Mel, maybe you could answer this.
Oh, for you guys?
No, for you.
Oh, me?
He only had a token.
When token?
When. It's good. Yeah.
You're actually very poetic, right? You're actually like a romantic deep inside because like you write poems and stuff.
Totally. I'm totally romantic.
I feel like sometimes when you talk to the community, it's a girl. I swear to God.
He has that sensitive side to him.
I'm very sensitive, which is I'm so hurt recently. You know, I'm so butthurt recently. Yeah.
Don't worry. You're doing great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Others would have walked away.
Thank you.
So should we address? All right. Well,
Keep
let it go.
quiet. That's
Token?
smart.
What
They're just-
token? Never heard of
Now,
a token.
5 more minutes. Why don't you guys Shill Alliance?
Oh, great. Awesome. Let's do that. I'll show you guys. Can I? Or you want...
Show, just go.
Just show.
Full force.
Shill? Okay, Shill. All right, let me go. Let me draw all my poetic and dramatic energy, okay, to Shill Alliance.
Hey, Mel, you gotta look into the camera.
I'm always looking camera. I feel like Alliance is like seriously the
first wife. Okay.
No, fucking. The firm that I think is the most well suited to take on the next era. You know,
Wow.
in the sense that like first of all, I feel like at least from my point of view, I think Qiao and Imran has always been there, right? You know, I think like when like everybody just like they're also like, for example, they're also like very focused on first principles, right? You know, right? In the sense that last couple of years, I think Imran and Qiao has always been here, not just with me, but also with the ecosystem, right? And I think everyone really appreciates that, right? You know, and that actually is a very interesting quality because it reflects the ability to like look past, because 99% of investors are narrative driven, right? Whatever the main narrative is, they follow, right? So the ability to just like, hey, you know what? Let me just not get caught up in whatever CT is saying, right? But actually think for myself and be able to like, you know, invest. I mean, that's why you guys are on here, right? Because you know, because of this relationship, right? You know, and that's why I'm here too, right? You know, because and the ability just like, okay, look past the current narrative to invest in what they really believe in, right? Not just money, by the way. Money is easy, right? But reputation, right? And willing to make a statement, right? So I feel like that's actually one thing that's actually really amazing, right? And then the second thing about Alliance is that is the ability to go deep, right? Like really go deep, right? That means not just talk about high level thesis, because I mean, let's face it, right? Most investors, they talk high level thesis, right? You know, but they go deep, right? They go deep into working with you, figuring out the partners, right? Understanding ecosystem, you know, degening into shitcoins. It is really important. It's actually really important. It's like you cannot be a good VC in this day and age if you don't degen. You know,
I would say the same about founders, to be honest.
Yeah, precisely, right? It's like you can't stay at you can't stay on at a arm's length.
Yeah,
right.
just don't get it.
You just don't get it. You don't get how the space works, right? And then you're always like, so I feel like that's actually really awesome because these two guys, they try everything. You know, they ape into stuff, they degen stuff. You know,
hurts.
They shield, huh?
Sometimes it hurts.
It hurts,
Financially, right?
No, the hurting is part of the game, right?
Hurting goes to zero.
It's like it's like
If you never lost money on a shitcoin, you're not part of the club.
No.
Yeah, but that's it. No, dude, even worse. If you never aped into a shitcoin after reading a tweet about it, like I'm the best investor in the world. Hey, I read a tweet, ape. And who has time for looking at rock chat, right? Things like that, right? So I feel like the fact they try out products, they get it's great, right? And thirdly is that I think it's just great friends.
Yeah.
Just great
That's
friends,
the most
right?
important thing.
Yeah, I think just the ability to not judge you, right? No, seriously, that's really important, right? Because I think a lot of people what I do is that, because let's face it, right? Crypto is an extremely reputation based thing, right? So it's like I think most people just want to be seen with the hottest thing at the moment.
Kind of like Hollywood, right?
Yeah,
It's like you want to be seen on the right party with the right people.
yeah, and happy to share that these guys don't work that way.
Yeah.
They don't work that way, right? They have never worked that way, They have never worked in the sense that, you're hot, I'm going to go after you, right? They have always, whether you're good or bad, they're always there for you, right?
Yeah, the other thing I will say about Alliance is just the quality of companies and builders. We constantly interact with other Alliance companies like Liquify, like the Pawn No More guys helped us a lot. It's just like building, what I was saying earlier, like building a startup is hard. Building a crypto startup is twice as hard. But building a crypto startup as part of Alliance, yeah, you can. It's kind of stomachable because there's other builders supporting you, and you get some help and a bit of fun along the way. So highly recommended.
Yeah. I would say you guys would make for great NFT project founders. And the reason why I say that,
Always be closing.
Compliment or what?
Always be closing.
honestly, you guys should launch with us.
When
But yeah, on a serious note, you guys have built an awesome community of builders, founders, companies, right, in crypto that have done super interesting things. Like Meow here with Jupiter. We're friends with the Steppen guys who've made this big splash on Solana.
We know love you guys. Guys, I'm telling you, dude, it's gonna be Valentine's Day. I'm telling you, Marius loves you.
Marius
fucking loves you, man. He's like, it's unhealthy. I'm just swear. I'm just saying it's unhealthy, right? Whatever,
Yeah.
Well,
And one last thing,
Yes.
it's like, and another awesome thing about Alliance is that if you look at their structure, they try everything. They try the fund structure, they try the DAO structure, they try every single thing, right? They really
We dog food crypto.
They dog food everything, right? And I really respect that.
We're builders. We just try shit. We just launched our office a week ago, literally. We had an MVP for our
MVP.
founders
Really?
for this badge.
And
That's cool,
it's
that's
very,
cool.
if you look at it, there's really nothing there.
Yeah, there's nothing
which
there.
is exactly how it should be.
We just
Yeah,
launched.
no, precisely.
Otherwise, I'd be worried.
Yeah.
It's super affected.
No, it's great because if you look at other investors, right, they don't really degen. So in summary, I think my pitch is that they don't. My pitch for Alliance is that I think if you look, they degen, they try shit out. Everything that you are doing, including NFT or degen or whatever, they probably do too. Right? And I was on the leaf here. I was getting coffee in Imran, and he was just pitching me non-fucking stop about a new his portfolio company. Right? I was getting annoyed. I'm like, what the fuck, But
He showed up
Sorry,
with
I
with
just-
hat.
no, but it was great. I'm like, wow, this guy is fucking passionate. Holy shit.
I just,
right?
I'm passionate. Yeah.
Love the game.
I love the game. It's great. And then
Like when Tensor was coming out, I was telling everybody, you got to try out Tensor. You got to try out Tensor. Jupiter, Matora,
Let's go,
whatever,
let's go, yeah,
Mercurio.
let's go, yeah.
Just
Go.
Nice.
This
Let's
is
go.
what do we do?
Nah, I love that. It's great.
Yeah.
That's all.
All right. Happy Valentine's, everybody.
All right.
Happy
We'll catch
Valentine's
you guys
Day.
soon. Thanks
See you
for
guys.
Happy Valentine's.
Thanks for the fun recording.
Thanks for listening to Good Game. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next week.